This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on March 21st, 2022. Please call the roll.
Chair Marsh,
Here.
Vice Chair Carey,
Here.
Member Hennigan,
Here.
Member Hutchins,
Here.
Alternate Member Flanagan. Here.
I now ask the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I ask anyone in the public who wishes to speak come forward. I'm not feeling great, so I'm just sitting right here. Good morning. Does anybody wish to pass a motion on the?
I'll make a motion to pass the minute, to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on.
Was that an aye, Britt?
Oh, yeah, aye. Sorry.
Okay, moving into discussion items. We have one quasi judicial hearing this morning, and before we start, I'd like to ask the commission if they've had any ex parte discussion with the applicant.
I was on the property yesterday and I met the owner and we just exchanged names and did not discuss the actual plans.
Okay. Anybody else?
None.
None. None. Okay. Now, clerk, can you introduce the?
Okay, well, anyone wishing to speak on this item, please stand up. Anybody wishing to speak on 66 North Ocean Boulevard, please stand.
My gosh.
And raise your right hand. So raise your right hand as well and repeat after me. Do you swear affirm the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, when you come forward, please state your name and address clearly for the record and whether or not you've been sworn in.
Could we have staff comments?
Good morning, Chair, board members, Corey of Warman Town Planner. This is development plan review for 6060 North Ocean Boulevard. This is the construction of a new two-story single-family home with 5 bedrooms, a gym, and office that can be considered bedrooms for parking purposes. 5 full bathrooms and 2 half baths, swimming pool and spa. The staff report for planning and zoning items recommends approval with the conditions outlined in the report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can.
The only one question I have is looking at Manny's calculations. Am I misunderstanding the disparity between the applicant's numbers and his? Is that correct? Or?
There was some just discrepancies in the way, it might be just the way that they calculate theirs, because Manny does this differently, but it is all under the threshold. So even with the discrepancies, there was no issues outlined that Manny saw in the calculations for him to hold it up. It still meets our requirement.
Thank you. Okay, Tara, anything?
Tara Bamber, town engineer. They met all the drainage requirements. There are still a couple of landscape conflicts with drainage that I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss today.
Okay, the applicant or applicants, how many are you?
My name is Travis Harrison. I'm the landscape architect for the project with Coastal Operations, my company.
Are you making the architectural presentations?
No.
Oh, okay.
He is, but. Good morning, everybody.
I'm Freddie Polania with Randall South Architects alongside with Earl.
Could you speak up a little?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, system's not working.
Can you hear me?
Our microphone
this
isn't
is-
working
it's
too
not
much,
working?
so.
That's okay. Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. My name is Freddie Polania with Randall South Architects alongside with Earl. We're representing Mr. and Mrs. Rutledge for 6060 North Ocean. And today what we are presenting to you is a single family residence, 5 bedrooms, 5 full baths. We also are considering 7 parking spaces, 3 on the interior of the garage, 4 on the exterior. The house is a coastal seaside in relation to the other residents in the community. If you pull up the pictures, actually, just a couple of pages up, so you'll see the site contacts, and you see that the home fits well within the community. It's a white home with a gray metal roof. The adjacent neighbor is also a white home, also coastal architecture with a metal roof as well. We fit well within all the setback requirements, height requirements, floor area ratio, lot coverage. We fit within the requirements of the town. We feel that, the architecture that we are proposing is not outside the context of anything that is not seen within the community. We are also featuring a new pool, nice landscaping, screen covered areas, mechanical equipment is all maintained within the appropriate setbacks. What else can I say? We fit all the open space requirements for the home. And we have a great landscape architect and civil engineer, which have also, pertain to all the considerations of the town. So I'd like to introduce Matthew with Coffin and Wheeler and Travis with Coastal Operations. If there's any questions on the architecture you may have.
Okay, that's your presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anybody from the public? Any input? Okay. I'll leave it up to the commission now to come up with any.
I see the pool design is by others. Can we be assured that the footprint of the pool will be what we see here? Or is there going to be a potential different impact on the design once the pool design gets done?
The pool remain the same. Yeah, the pool should remain the same. Right now, we engineered the entire property with the septic drain field and all of my other landscape calculations. I would love for that pool to stay exactly as it is so that the rest of the footprint and the design doesn't change. But as of right now, that's the plan. That pool is
I mean, I don't care about pool depth, shelf. I'm talking about the footprint of the pool because it affects landscape and drainage, which we're reviewing today.
Right.
And if there is the possibility that it's going to change, we want it to come back.
No, right now, I believe the spa aligns with like the gym, and there's a view corridor right there. They'd like to look over the pool from their gym space and so forth. So I think all of that's been coordinated with the client and the design intent. So.
Thank you.
I have one question. Is the basketball layout, is that included in the footprint for the entire property, the hardscapes?
It's just a request from the client to have a basketball goal. So we placed one in the driveway, up to the side. So we're just showing where you can kind of see the layout of some elements. You're not going to see those in reality. It's just kind of showing that you could have a free throw line in an area where you could have a 3-point line.
So it doesn't look like it's part of it looks like it's part of the grassy area. Maybe I'm misinterpreting. I'm looking at LS 100.
That's just the post that's going to sit on the grass. Everything else will be on the drive.
Right. Yeah, the post is off of the hardscape itself, so that it doesn't, if you were playing, you wouldn't hit the post.
It just has a large square area that looked like it was a basketball court.
Okay.
No, it's just a visual on the site plan to show the location of where the post will be.
I have a couple of questions about the package you presented to us. Starting on the front page, we only have 2 displays of what the home will look like, which were good, but I wonder why we didn't have all four sides. One question. Another question was, it was difficult to go through what you gave us so we could get an idea of the place. Had to keep going back and forth from, I wrote it down somewhere. The pages that showed the sections, and you go to the sections. And maybe this is the first time I've ever seen anything done like this, but it really required a lot of time to try and figure out what everything was going to look like. So, and my last comment is, you've got the front of the house, which I like a lot, oriented to the north on Corinne. The side that will face A1A, it seems to me should have a little bit more relief consistent with the front of the house. And I hardly ever make comments about the way a place is going to look, but unless you're going to instantly have some type of shield, plant growth or something that'll hide that, it just doesn't quite look right to my eye. And it's just a comment.
Thank you. I've got a question for Corey. The bedroom total count, did you consider office in June? So it's actually potentially 7, correct?
Yes.
And still meets the,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted it to be on the record. Are we just discussing the building at this point?
Well, it's been presented in whole, so
Okay.
you can,
Pardon?
it's been presented as a whole, both
Okay.
architects.
Does anyone else have building comments or
I will
structural?
come up when you finish.
Pardon?
You go ahead and,
I'm going to take a big divert, so
No,
I ask you to come back to me again later.
go ahead.
What I would like is when we get to landscape, that the landscape architect walk us through it.
Yes.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Okay. So I'll save my comments.
Okay, first of all, this is one of the well-kept sites, or best hidden site in town. I think. It's the elevation, it's really a unique site. Walked by it hundreds of times, but are these the same owners, or this is a new owner?
New owner.
New owners.
Okay.
Closed in May of last.
Thank you. The other thing is, this is about as complete a package I've ever seen, to be honest. And I think that's partly why my friend on the left here is, it's a very complicated reference system. No complaints, but I know it makes it difficult to navigate through. I think the siding of the house is great. I think the plan is excellent. I think it really responds to the site. The architecture style is, again, what is it, coastal? Coastal. That's broadest brush I can hear. It lacks any real definition. I think the composition is good. I don't understand the arch element personally, but I think it's fine. I do agree on the east side, it's a little stark. However, knowing the site, and I hope to hear from the landscape architect that the sea grape strand that's there is going to be protected, may make it somewhat of a, there may be a trade-off in that requirement. The renderings don't show, unless it says, it's hard to say, this is a standing seam roof, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's gray?
Yes.
I think, I said the use of the property is well done. And apart from the lack of definition of architectural style, which is okay, it's a very good project. I'd like to come back like everybody else to the landscape. Okay, can I pass it back to you?
Yeah, I think what we'd like is to have the landscape architect kind of take us through the landscape drawing a bit, so maybe that avoids a lot of questions.
Does that include the fence around the property as well?
That will come up in the landscape.
Travis Harrison, landscape architect. Sure, so let's talk about the landscape. It's, like you said, it's a beautiful site. It sits on this beautiful kind of ridge. It's almost like a back dune almost of sorts, if there could have been dunes in play. The existing site has the large sea grape stand along the east that you guys mentioned, and within the property there are other sea grapes. There's actually a pitch apple up in the northeast corner that's not in good condition. We had an arborist come out and conduct an arborist vegetation assessment, and some of the trees were not in good condition. That pitch apple, which was really big, I thought it might be in good condition. He said the aerial roots that are supporting the tree are not actually viable for supporting a tree of that size, and was concerned on, just some other characteristics of the tree. But that was one of the trees. That's a native tree that he said probably should come down just because of its tendency to possibly fail in a high wind event. But the strategy, dealing with the grades of the site, knowing where the septic drain field is in the lower left-hand corner or the southwest. I relocated a sea grape that was down there in the lower southwest. I put that back up where that pitch apple actually came out. And then just within the property line, I also relocated some other sea grape material that was on the site. So the goal was to keep as much native vegetation as possible. And where that existing stand of sea grapes are along the east, we have a retaining wall proposed that's just inside the ridge line. So it's basically the grade of the home, and it steps up to the retaining wall, and then it kind of peaks out at the ridge, and then it slopes back down to the sidewalk along North Ocean Boulevard. But the goal there, even the arborist said, there are so many sea grapes here, you can't even quantify them. There's just, there were several root systems at play there. So that's great. That's a great buffer, visual buffer. Also, just it enhances North Ocean Boulevard. When you drive along there, you really don't even notice that there's this property. You just feel like there's this great vegetated stand right there. Within the design, so if we go, this is basically the site plan, kind of showing some of the existing material, spot grades, some of the hardscape materials, and so on. If we go to the next page, or keep going to the planting plan LP 100, there, I think that's it. So on here, this is the full planting plan. The client expressed an interest in having kind of an English garden meets a subtropical climate. So that's why you kind of see a very colorful of some of those renderings on the front page. But the idea here is to use a lot of native understory, kind of edge, dune edge plant material, flowering material. We are proposing a few extra trees as well on the property per the zoning requirements. I believe it's 5.46 trees. I rounded it to 5. We've got Lignum vites proposed, which is a beautiful native tree. We also have some bayrum trees that are also native, a beautiful tree. And then quite a bit of understory planting that all make up that kind of lush English garden-esque kind of style. Very excited about seeing all that come together. I think it would be a beautiful property and support the local flora and fauna. You guys have any questions in particular about the landscape?
I have a question about the west property line.
Yes.
So that's where there's 2 driveways and some existing planting. I don't know whether that's on this property or on the neighbor's property. So talk us through, as compared to what's there today, what will you be doing? And I'm concerned about the adequacy of the screening from the west property owner.
Right. So along the western property line, I've got some Cocothrinax palms proposed, intermixed with some other evergreen hedge materials. So right now you have a Clusia hedge that's out there that runs pretty much consistent. It's a nice evergreen hedge.
Yeah. Is that Clusia hedge on this piece of property, or is it on the neighbor's?
I believe that's our property.
Okay.
So
you're planning to remove that?
They plan to remove that, and then as grades, once you demo, you kind of get a real good sense of how high retaining walls need to be, where retaining walls need to be, and so forth. You can can do it from a plan perspective, but, you know, once the reality of actually the demo occurs, we're going to see, you know, how much retaining we're going to need. And obviously we want to screen our property around the perimeter as much as possible. You know, given the location of the septic drain field and how we have to be a certain distance away from it for additional plant material, I couldn't do any really large trees back in that area. But the idea is to have a large screening hedge of some sort, along with, you know, I wanted to have some height back there as well. So the Cocothrynax palm is a native endemic palm, but it's in the trade, it's available. They grow, you know, somewhere between 10 to 15, almost 20 feet tall. They have beautiful, almost like sable palm looking leaves, but they're, you know, I think that'll add that extra height and a little extra screening material along that edge. So that's the goal. Just
Yeah, that's the hedge and the fence. It's on the neighboring property.
oh, the hedge as well.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously then that we'll try to keep that.
Because I'm sorry,
The hedge and the wall itself that's out there currently is on the neighboring property.
Okay.
So,
Is that the coleus? Is that the coleus hedge that you're referring to?
Clusia, the Clusia.
Clusia.
The Clusia.
so that'll remain.
Yeah, so that would remain as much as possible, you know.
That's helpful because, you know, otherwise we start looking kind of at the detail of the west elevation of the house and seeing what the neighbor's view is going to be.
Right. Well, we do want to add some more material back there, obviously, to, you know, screen.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So when I looked at this plan, it looks like you're planting things in the town's right of way. So if you look at the property line, you just want to make sure that everything you're planting is in the property line. Corinne Street is a very, very narrow street.
Yes, it is.
And there are currently we have vegetation planted in the right of way there. So what our plan is to widen that road so that a fire truck can get up the street properly. So we want to make sure none of your plantings are going to be in the right of way. We are going to widen that.
The very initial plan, I had some secret material that was relocated and I had kind of pushed them out beyond what you see there in terms of the property line. That's the northern property line. But per the comments, I brought them all back in within the property line. So right now that plan should be consistent with, you know, keeping everything within the owner's property.
Did you say you were keeping the sea grapes along A1A?
Yes, as much as possible per, you know, per the site.
It'll really help your clients with sound coming from A1A.
Invisibility, I love it. I mean, the sea
Absolutely.
grapes are, and also just per erosion, you don't want that slope to erode either. So those are all helping with that.
What I do like is that so often we get a landscape plan and it doesn't tell us what's in the town right of way. I'd like to see that on future plans, that we know what's there, even though it's the town's choice as to what happens.
Right.
I'd like to start off with a big compliment. Most appreciative of an arborist coming out and surveying. I walked the property yesterday also, as much as I could without going into the property. I walked the perimeter. It was fabulous to see the trees that are going to be removed that are tagged. It gave me a much better perspective of some of the concerns that I had when I initially looked at the drawing. I walked over there because of the memo from you, Tracy. How much of the issue with Corinne is within our purview today to discuss? Because I don't want to be stepping on town toes or their toes, but I took a couple of pictures that are a little bit bigger than what are in the package. You could put those up. This access here is called a street at the present time.
Right. Exactly what I was talking about.
Okay.
It's too narrow.
To give you a sense of size, I left my bicycle there. from the edge of that curb to the gravel is 10.5 feet wide. Okay? If you put the other slide up, or the other picture up, please. Okay, this is looking from my bicycle back the other way. So the pavement there is no wider than 12, and that's right at the driveway. And you can see the entrance to the
Natural area.
natural area. So this is a pedestrian slash street also issue. The wall on the property west, the white wall that's in the trees, from the curb to that white wall is exactly 20 feet. So if we're, I mean, is the town planning a 20-foot street? Okay, so we don't know the answer, but visualize a 20-foot street in there. So my concern here is, where does the additional size come from? Is it only this property? Is it the neighbor to the west? Is it the people that live on the north side of this? So looking at the drawing, which I did have difficulty trying to get a sense of the scope of Corinne on here. It's like your survey only went halfway into the space. It didn't show what's on the other side. And I think there's a major concern. If you go back to the one with the bicycle, can you put the one, yeah, the other one, of not only the narrowness here, but the height of your lot, both as it tapers down to Corinne and as it tapers down on the other side, as to how, especially during construction, how access is going to safely occur on this corner. This is taken from the perspective of someone, line of sight that you would have in a vehicle being on A1A, trying to turn into this street. You can see there the restrictions going out. This is what you would have if you're on A1A. This white line is, you can see the dots in the center of the street there, the two dots. So I think this is a significant hazard during the construction time, as the number of vehicles is going to increase, and you can literally hide a very large vehicle, almost a cement truck behind there. You would never, from here, you wouldn't see that as you turned in there, you're not even going to have any roadway to go into the site.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is that, because I did the same thing everybody else did. Is that a power pole that is also there?
Yes.
So
That has to be relocated.
Yes.
So, but that's not so much their problem as.
No.
oh,
No, that's the
nothing.
town's issue.
It's the town and DOT, right? So I don't know how that gets resolved, but I just think I think I just have to mention it here because I think it's a risk during the construction phase. So I don't know what the timing of this was supposed to be to resolving that corner. Just want to point it out. I think it is seriously, I was hoping that the chief was going to be here. There's a certain radius of turn that's required, and I don't know how you're going to protect those sea grapes that are to the south of that existing pole. I think there's going to have to be some mitigation there of the sea grapes, and I think probably that elevation is going to be a line of sight blocker also. So I don't know how much you looked at that. I don't know how much the engineers got into it at this point, but I think it impacts your timing of what you're going to do.
Yeah, those are all things that we as staff work with the contractors during the building permit.
Perhaps during construction, that sea grate could come out to open up the sight line and sight triangle visibility. And then perhaps DOT in town can relocate, even work on that hole that's in question. Perhaps during construction, one big effort could be made to kind of consolidate all of that activity. And then that could possibly increase the safety of that corner for accessibility and so
Can
forth.
you put the other one up with the bicycle looking? Can you describe to us what's going to be to the right of the bicycle? How much of that is going to be?
A lot of that was town right away.
That's town right.
That's town right away?
Yes, it is. That's why I said it needs
Okay.
to be removed.
Is that
Town
fence
right away.
on the property line? Is that what I'm seeing here on the drawing?
Yes,
More than likely, yeah.
and that would be removed. The fence would be removed.
May I ask Tracy, what do you think the likely timing for this work is? My assumption is this house will be built and lived in before
Before
this
we can get
works.
to the roadway.
Yes,
Yes.
you agree?
Yes.
So whatever it is, it's two different timelines, but we have to think through.
But we can,
But we're
the sea grates could be
pre-planning. We
removed.
want to make sure they remove everything from the right of way there so that we can potentially.
Open up the
I
visibility.
mean, you could see around the pole if some of the other things are addressed.
Yeah.
You know, which I,
Correct. And I mean, the other new homes on the street were obviously, I mean, they were built and.
Yeah,
so
that's
forth.
my point. Sorry. Yeah, I think those, Neil, those are all great ideas, or concerns. I think that's why we have staff and they have, look at the mart of people they have here. Caulfield and Wheeler, I know well, they're top engineers. So I think we have to rely on them to do that. I think it's great to point out these or observations. I was just going to say the house to the west was, I think was just recently done. When I say recent, in the last 6 years. So that, you know, it's, my feeling is leave
yeah,
it.
but you can see into that lot. You can't see into this one.
Well, let me just finish here.
Yeah.
I love it the way it is. I think it's got character and I wish it could stay, but I know the safety thing. There's a thing called MOT, okay? We're gonna have to get used to, when we come to this area, there are gonna be people directing traffic back and forth for as long as it takes. That's
Okay.
the reality. MOT is helping. Right. So that has to be monitored. That has to be part of the criteria.
And it will be.
So I think the concerns are real. An observation, but I just think we have to leave it to them to satisfy that. As I said, to turn that into a 20-foot paved road is just, I think it spoils the whole charm, especially to the natural area.
I'm not advocating.
No,
I'm just saying you have to be able to safely see to go in and see to go out.
right. And there is safety angles, triangles.
I'm not trying to engineer it.
I will have to rely on these guys, but I think that's good observation. Going back to the landscape, sorry, are you finished with?
Well, to me, I just, okay, it'll, whatever later. I've been just,
I think we can,
that's fine.
I'm not trying to foreshorten your
No,
concerns.
it's fine.
I'm just saying that the onus is on them to really follow the safety and the improvements. Are there any other landscape? I have just a few questions.
And don't forget about Terrace also has some landscaping concern about 4 of the trees that are
In
in
drainage.
the drainage infrastructure.
Right.
And since the landscape architect is here, you guys can show him maybe where they can move that to, or he can advise where he can move that to.
Yeah, that was one point. Could we discuss that now, Tara?
Yeah. This way, it's random, yeah. So I highlighted
Yep.
that south portion of the system.
Mhm.
It's mostly there after the exfiltration trench,
Mhm.
between the inlet and the exfiltration trench.
Mhm.
So there's a Lingham beat it, what is that?
With the body.
So it's like it's right on top of the inlet,
And
so that's not gonna work.
I think all of this material, I mean, the idea was that it was.
Can you show us where you're,
Do you want to do it here, Tara?
Sure.
That way it's protected.
we can't see what you're addressing.
Yeah, so this is the southeast corner, and there's a tree right on top of the inlet.
Northeast.
Northeast.
Southeast.
No, southeast.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yep.
So there's an inlet right there. It's hard to see because there's a tree right on top of it. And then as you go west, there's one of the thrash palms.
Patch palms, yeah.
Yeah, there's one there, and then the bay rum tree.
Yep, right.
And then another thrash palm up here. So those were the ones that I was concerned about.
Sure. So
And the orange is the pipe.
orange is the pipe. All of that plant material that's being proposed, again, is kind of in an English garden style, so it's kind of meant to be somewhat wild and not like a straight stamped design. All of that material can be pulled, massaged, especially during the time of construction. My experience is when it's time to plant trees, obviously the infrastructure is going to be in place, and we would, we would move those elements, as required, and not be obviously right on top of a pipe of some sort. But I'm happy to revise the plan to show that that is off of
Yeah, so
that area to. make
I like
everyone feel
when
more
people
comfortable.
say that, but when the landscape people come in, they don't necessarily see this, especially because it's very light.
I'll be
You
here
just had another project.
all the time. I'll probably
that-
get to see all of you more often if you're out there biking and so forth and walking the site. But I understand.
I like to not see it over.
Sure, I'm happy to revise that and pull those
Yeah.
off that area. We did we massaged some things even up to the north just a little bit there, kind of centrally on the central axis of the home on the eastern side. We moved another, I think it was a white Simpson stopper off of the exfiltration trench. And yeah, we've got to, obviously we have to avoid the drainage lines and make sure that it's a nice distance away for plants to be happy and grow and not grow directly on top of it. Happy to make those changes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sure. Just, sorry, Carla, can you put the retaining wall on the east side? Just explain what's happening there.
You want to talk to that?
Yes, Matthew Coffenmuller. So the retaining wall is needed to keep the higher existing grades of the berm, or the sea grade strand is, retained from the lower elevations of the side yard once the finished floor elevation is set at a lower elevation in line with the side grade.
So you're not affecting that berm, right?
The berm is to stay,
natural
the sea
berm.
grade is to stay, the retaining wall just hold those in place
I
to construct the
understand
lower
that
yard
part.
area.
I just want to make sure you weren't affecting the berm.
Should not be affecting the berm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Talk to me about this lignum vitae, because it's a tree dear to two of us here.
It's a proposed tree, so it's not existing, but it would be,
What size and, because I'm not sure, is it going to be happy here?
why wouldn't it be?
Actually, I checked.
It's a native.
It's a native tree.
I know, I mean,
It's a native tree that's,
it's native, but the salt air is a little harsh. It's a small leaf, so.
right? It's my understanding it's a, medium salt tolerant tree, so.
Okay, I
Yeah,
love
I
that.
mean, sea grapes obviously more salt tolerant than others. Some trees are obviously highly salt tolerant.
No, it's nice to
I was
see.
trying to introduce color for them, a little color that wasn't a huge tree, but it would still provide some color onto the property. And the bay rum has got the nice kind of aromatic leaves and so forth.
So Two of my favorite trees.
Yeah, really cool trees, right? And then the Cocothronex palm is one of my favorites these days. It's endemic, but it's, it's kind of a small to medium palm, and it's great. So,
Sorry,
Those grow down in the Keys,
what's that?
lignin.
yeah,
I know, but
they're
it's-
a Keys tree.
It's our national tree. The only other thing, and I think Mr. Carey brought it up, was the fact that in that southwest corner seems a little bit barren. I know it's a lawn for the drain field. Is there any way you could get, I mean, if you're transferring some of these sea grapes or relocating, to get something that could anchor that corner?
Possibly. I mean, maybe we could look at the drainage or the septic drainage calculations. I'm not sure if we could, but the one tree that I'm proposing to be relocated, a sea grape that's now in the upper right-hand corner, that tree is actually sitting right there at the bottom of the southwest corner of the site right now, kind of up against that property line. It's got a tree protection zone. It has a root zone that's obviously out there. Could that root zone be trimmed back? Could we still provide the adequate distance for the drain field offset setback? That, I think it would be great to have that tree down there because it's, like I said, it would kind of anchor the site in that corner. Right now, it is a little light.
It would help the concern about screening the neighbor and also kind of give some containment. Because I think the landscape layout is so nice to see the loose and casual rambling garden rather than this very structured layout that we normally do.
It sure seems if you worked a little bit with the engineer on the septic field and maybe shifting a bit towards the pool and maybe squaring it up a bit, you could get some more opportunity there in that corner. Yeah, just a thought.
It would be nice to use one of the existing trees because there are some.
Plus, I mean, when you relook at a tree, the viability of that tree's survival, I mean, somewhat, negligent, but it's, sea grapes generally, they're pretty tough. Those things you can pick them up and drop them and they grow.
All right. No, I think it's an excellent, as I said in the onset presentation, I think it's very thorough. I think there are concerns from the town standpoint and some of these right-of-way and traffic issues. But I think all in all, as I said, this is a sterling site. I mean, it's really one of the gems. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the ready guy building official.
Oh.
Strangely enough, this just, I just noticed this one. There is a setback requirement from our septic to our pool. Have you guys had health department approval? Is this the type of system that will allow for that? That seems incredibly close.
So we have a 10-foot setback currently between the system and the pool.
Might be wrong, but I think it's a minimum 25 feet based on the type of system that you have. That might be too close.
We'll be discussing that with the health department on submission.
So generally what we see is usually the drain field is on the opposite side of the property where you have the pool.
We'll be discussing that with the health department.
So that would significantly alter your layout, and if it does, then you need to come back to P&Z, at least for the landscape, because that's a significant help.
If the change is required, then we would come back.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll motion that it's approved.
Subject to staff.
Subject to staff, subject to septic.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, well done.
Thank you.
That's right. It's just the chart. Yeah. What? I watched that with my grandkids.
Oh, really?
Okay, this is where I fade. Pardon?
May I leave on this?
Sure. Okay, we're moving on to ordinance review. By Vice Chair Kerry would like to lead off on the first,
Number 3,
number 3.
I can't recall how long I've been on this commission. It hasn't been all that long, and we have seen this before, and I believe that the same members were on the commission, and we took a view that this was kind of an overreach by the county asking the town to adopt. And I think the introduction says it's not mandatory. And the first thing that bothers me is it puts our town code enforcement taking the responsibility of what, South Florida Water Management wants in theirs. And it's, I think my fellow Commissioner Dave will agree that, we get into a lot of regulation, and this becomes a lot of detail. At one point, it says in here that property owners are to be familiar with this. I can't imagine that property owners are going to be familiar with it. It says it shall be the duty of each user to keep informed about the landscape and irrigation measures. And then it gets into, very prescriptive details. In my address, I'm an odd. I'd have to be water on Saturday, Monday, and or Wednesday. If I chose during the wetter periods to cut back and wanted to do Saturday and Tuesday, I can't do that. And then when you put new materials in, which I just happened to have done last week, and hand watered on Friday, I guess I broke the rule here because it doesn't allow hand watering on Friday. It has every other day of the week but Friday. And it goes on about maintenance and testing for 10 minutes, and if the application of fertilizer was done and it needed to be watered in, that application had to have been done by a professionally landscaped applicator, applier, and a sign with a date had to be posted. And then it imposes on the town these fines, which go quite I mean, as someone who takes some of the summer months away, all it takes is a storm or something to throw your sprinklers off, and next thing you know, you're getting a citation because it's watering out of hours. I think we can leave it to South Florida Water Management to enforce their own rules myself. And I'm done.
All right, well, it's stole my thunder because I'm just going, before we have a discussion, I think we're going down an ordinance road here, which I don't know why we have so many ordinances coming forward. We'll go through each of them, obviously, but this is one.
So if I can address that, staff has been directed by P&Z and the town commission to work on these ordinances. So that's why they're coming before you. As far as this ordinance that's in front of you now, you all told us to, at the last meeting, to kind of rework it and see what we could do. So that's what we did. So we increased it from a limitation of 2 days a week to 3 days a week to be consistent. But we really need to do something, in my opinion, because we have a lot of drainage issues in the town. If we don't start regulating watering or overwatering, it's just going to continue to get worse.
I don't know, I may be the only one. I'm still on the Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday cycle, just automatic from many years ago as a restriction, so.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is really from the Water Management District, which has pretty much forced almost every municipality in Palm Beach County to adopt something similar to this. leaving up to your discretion, obviously, to go between 2 times a week or 3 times a week. They don't like really 3 times a week, but a lot of cities have chosen to do that. They haven't said that it would impact your ability to get any grants from them, but the implication is certainly there that if this is something that you don't adopt, you might fall on the short list if there's ever a water management district grant opportunity. So, you know, it's certainly up to this board's discretion if you want to recommend denial to the commission. And then it's in their hands to say whether or not they want to do something different.
Thank you. Any comment?
I have a comment. With reference to number 4, E, and the even odd irrigation assignments on page 7. If you're in a HOA or a condo, you're assigned a street address. They're odd and even numbers. Unfortunately, it's water zones. So all the odd and even numbers get watered in that water zone. So that has to be considered in the language, how you refer to an HOA or a condo. It's impossible. And then with the hand watering, when you put in new vegetation, there all the watering apparatus for each of the homes is private. So you don't have public, so you have to bring in water. So we're really, and it's really very complicated when you get into the weeds with this issue. Because what are you going to, how you can't cite people for a zone determined irrigation system. That's it. Just makes it complicated. The other issue is they're talking about watering in fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides. I'm assuming they're saying 1 application per annum suit, that's 1 per year. What are we talking about there? It's not really, and do you even need to get into that?
Which page are you on, Brett?
The fertilizers are on page 9, number 2, D2, those exceptions.
I'll get clarification on that one.
Right, and then on page 8 was the, and I know in the HOA, any hoses are attached to faucets that are attached to homes, and it's their private water source. So you're not using HOA, you're using private water sources for watering common areas if you put new vegetation in. And Tracy, that was D on page 8.
Thank you.
I don't think anybody here is, I'm an avid gardener. So I appreciate watering and I know when to water and all that. I mean, not everybody is obviously, but I just think, as Rick said, it's an overreach. I don't know what the minimum we can do to qualify or to, abide by the, what did you call it? So water management.
South Florida Water Management District. regulations.
What
Right.
can you recommend?
I mean, is there just a procedure we can do? It's a little less restricted than this. I mean, it's
We've been working with them ad nauseum, I think.
well,
to
it's,
come to this.
they should go.
And how is this policed? What is the plan for police?
So enforcement would be by the town, which, keep in mind too, the town always maintains its discretion to enforce its code. So it is true. We do always maintain our discretion and we can enforce our codes how we choose to, and we can't make us enforce enforcement in terms of code enforcement. But this is sort of their standard, pushing this enforcement off on municipalities because they don't really have an enforcement arm that they use for this type of particular locality issue.
You know, I believe in economic incentives, but more positive ones than negative ones here. And I don't know about others. I'm on Boynton Water and it's expensive to overwater. You know it on your next bill. You know it if your pool's leaking and overfilling on your next bill. That's the kind of incentive I'd like people to respond to is, you know, hey, it's expensive to overwater, so I'm not going to overwater. Not have the users be familiar with 12-page code. Can we downgrade our fines to nothing and next to nothing?
Well, all right. Do we have I guess the question was asked, do we have a recommendation to make to the commission?
Do you want to open up to public comment as well?
Sure. Anybody in the public wish to? Get up here. I need you now. Yes, come on.
Zoe Hennigan, 91 Island Drive South. Just listening to the concerns and pros and cons and to what the intention is and to actually what Chairman Marsh said. Is there any way you could just have a bare bones minimum? Most of us do know odd number, even number. Just have that in terms of days of watering and none of this other heavy duty stuff in there. And that meets the intention of the county or the water district, and then be done with it. I mean, it is, I agree that it's all an overreach and it's far too much, but at least if we just have that, would that be sufficient, just as a suggestion?
We can always try, we can always ask, but there hasn't been much movement on that kind of drastic change to what they proposed as part of their standard.
But it also meets what Tracy has said, that, you know, the overwatering causes drainage issues. And that's the concern of it. And that's the concern of our town. And that's what we would like to address. Yeah.
How have other towns responded as far as the condensation of the
Most of them,
original one
most
to
of them-
something more still?
most of them have adopted it.
Yeah, I know the city of Boynton Beach adopted it because I live in Boynton Beach and I have to abide by those.
I don't think anybody read it.
And I'll be honest, I don't think it's on the, list of enforcement actions that most cities struggle with.
Right.
And this is pretty low on the totem pole
Yeah.
of issues that you come across, but they have mostly adopted it.
What if we did something like Joanne recommended, which is pretty much what we've always had here? And what enforcement does the water district have against the town?
Well, that's just if they don't really, but at some point, you may have to go to water management district to ask for something, and they may say,
Well, at that time we worry about it. This is like coffee. It's just too much.
Yeah, you brought that up, and Tracy can probably answer this, that go to water management district. I understand west of the intercoastal, how water management district is very important. Do they help us at all here on the barrier island? What benefit I would love to have them come and help with our drainage issues. I don't think they have a canal. They don't have discharge. What do they have to help us?
I mean, they do. I mean, they oversee the discharge. South Florida Water Management District is very important in our town. And anytime we make changes to our drainage systems, we need their support. We need to have that good relationship with them. Or some of our projects are not going to be approved potentially. And you hear our town engineer talk about repair versus replacement of our drainage systems and how we try to stay on the side of repair, because when it comes to replacement, it's a very long, hard process to get permits from South Florida Water Management District.
So it sounds like they're not very helpful already.
Why are we counting? Sorry, inappropriate. True.
I mean, if you just look at it, we have drainage issues here in town. Overwatering kind of exacerbates that. And number two,
Where do we have
water
overwatering
shortages.
drainage problems?
Where?
Where?
Rick? In Lake K?
Yeah, we could have it in the K, but I don't observe it. I think people are rational. That's my point, is that they make decisions unless they're out of town or something like that.
And then they're watering.
Yeah.
Isn't it more of a community approach if you see a sprinkler system that's on for an extended time, just to try to notify somebody and just say, we do have an ordinance or we have a procedure here that you can't, you're abusing or something. I mean, just try that. It just seems, sorry,
Well, probably most, unless somebody's really abusing it, it's probably not going to come to the police department's attention to respond.
or if you see somebody
because
watering
there are
7
more-
days a week, then it's obvious that it's an abuse. But
But
Kirsty, do
really
we-
driving around the entire town and policing this? I don't think so. And I don't think they will. I think
No,
that
but I mean,
this
it's-
is all
Yeah.
posturing.
Do we have any type of
Political
ordinance
posturing.
currently, Christie?
You may have a conservation, a larger, broader conservation ordinance that sometimes kicks in if there is a water shortage. But this is very specific into specific watering on your property.
10 or 12 years ago, whenever we had a really dry summer,
They adopted something.
we adopted it. I know this town adopted because that's how we got to the 3 days and 2
Yes.
days. Why can't we just stick with that? We're abiding by something.
Christie's looking it up.
All right,
Because my concern is you put ordinance on the books, we're all gone, and then, we get some code enforcement officer down the road that starts reading the codes and saying, well, you're in violation, you're in violation, you're in violation, and he'd be within the scope of his duties to enforce the codes. I'd hate to see people cited under a strict enforcement of this 12-page code.
Can we have a motion of some kind for a recommendation or non-recommendation, whatever? Or just an abstention?
We have public comment.
Come on, please.
Carolyn Cassidy, 7 Hudson. I don't think you can go into adopting a code that you're going to upfront say you're going to selectively enforce. That just seems counterintuitive, right? And I think as Britt said, if you went out to the public and said, hey, this is our water policy, please adhere to it. I mean, I'm betting a lot of people, especially newer people, don't know what the days are, what you're supposed to do, not supposed to do.
Yeah, it's about education. Yeah.
Well, publish it, website, whatever.
I don't like this.
Sorry?
I don't like this.
Well,
It's
you want-
overreach.
Can you want to make a motion?
Somebody help me.
I mean, are you directing staff to work on it some more? Are you just saying, I mean, if you don't vote on it and move to the next item, it dies. There's nothing.
Well, I think you need to either make a recommendation to the commission or say that you do not recommend.
Okay.
Because this will move forward to the commission and we'll bring either your recommendation or not your recommendation.
I think I would like to suggest that we recommend that this thing just be shelved.
Can we ask for more direction from the commission as to how onerous a policy they want to put on the town, or?
That discussion, move on.
What?
I'll second that, sorry.
I mean, I think that we're a tool for the commission to think through the details of this so they don't have to. And so we ought to give them our best thinking on it and let them decide. And we've got a motion in a second, I think, to recommend against this. Am I reading that correctly?
Can I get a roll? Second, it's been moved and seconded.
Member Hutchins, how do you vote?
I vote to support what I just mentioned, I just put forward.
So you vote to support the
Yes.
motion that you
Yes.
do not recommend, I mean, when it goes to the commission, not to recommend approval.
That is correct.
Okay, Chair Marsh, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carey, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hennigan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alternate Flanagan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll compile the minutes from today's meeting. That way they know exactly why you did not recommend it.
We have liaisons here that can express it. Okay, I'm not sure I'm gonna survive another one.
That's the toughest thing.
Okay, ordinance review, number 4. Letter of credit for demolition. We need public first.
No, I mean, do you want me to just introduce the item very
Please.
quickly? So this item came out of the joint workshop between the town commission and the planning and zoning commission. And in the discussions, you know, there was some discussion that it's not clear the letter of credit to who it applies to, because it also says partial demolitions, which could be interior demolitions. So the only thing that we added to this ordinance is just to clarify that a letter of credit is not necessarily needed for an interior demolition if the building official determines that he doesn't need one, if they met all other requirements. You guys did have some concerns that maybe in some cases, there may be a need for a letter of credit for an interior demolition. And in this case, with the ordinance, he has the judgment to be able to say whether he needs it or doesn't need it, if there's some type of interior work being done.
I have a question of staff. I think this makes a lot of sense. When someone's replacing windows to do impact glass or something, that's not considered demolition, is it?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve this to get the discussion going.
Okay, I have a comment on, I'm trying to figure out how to refer to it here since pages aren't numbered. Article 3, the next page over at the bottom where it's underlined, notwithstanding those requirements set forth herein.
That's the only change to the
That's the only change.
Yep.
I'm uncomfortable with just the 2 words adverse impacts at the bottom. I think it can result in too many arguments, and that's pro and con. If we want to leave the statement adverse impacts in there, I would like to add a little more emphasis on safety. I don't want an applicant to be arguing with the building official when the building official takes a position on safety. I would like that to be more specific.
Yeah, and, the safety portion was discussed during the last meeting when we looked at this.
I think he needs a little more of a leg to stand on it, that area.
Excuse me, Ronnie, doesn't the building code override that or state that life safety is a requirement?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I guess the building code addresses most issues from a life safety perspective. The truth is, at this point, when someone is doing a kitchen remodel, an interior alteration of any space, the town does not require them to provide the letter of credit and the 110%, financial document to guarantee that work. However, this code does state that because it is indeed a partial demolition, they're doing that type of work. So this is just to clarify what we've been doing and not exercising, I guess, following the code to its detail by requiring that for smaller projects, which are, 100% inside within the walls, no exterior walls are removed. So that's what we have here. But I do agree, we could also express that, if it is.
My concern, Ronnie, is.
But we could add that moving forward, is that correct? Modify the language we have.
Well, you can do it now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, adverse impacts is a significant term. Okay? And I'm trying to not let somebody trap you in an argument over subjectivity. That you can have another card that you can play, that you can say, my assessment of this thing is you're pushing a comfort zone that the town has, that if you walked away from this, that there could be safety aspects. And I just want you to be able to say that needs to come here. Or it needs to be covered.
Is that something that we really need to say on something that's letter of credit?
Well, the letter of credit is there to make sure that if somebody doesn't complete what they're doing, that something is left in a state that can be finished or put back to a safe condition. It's.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, sort of explain, if you recall, we have our demolition ordinance, and within that, we require a letter of credit to ensure that they complete the job. If they don't, then the town could pull from the letter of credit to complete the job. The concern was that the letter of credit was costing folks additional costs to their project, and could we make an exception for interior demolitions where we don't see that it's going to be a life safety issue or have an adverse impact on neighboring property, say if you're in a condo or something like that. So that's why language was crafted to come up with this exemption so that when those folks did apply for interior demolition, we didn't hit them with an additional huge project cost to provide this letter of credit. So this is what we're trying to do. And if we want to add that, there's an adverse impact and or it creates a life safety issue, we could add language certainly to that so that it's not just an adverse impact. We could say add an adverse impact and a life safety issue so that there's more teeth to it and it's not as broad or perhaps vague.
Yeah, I'm trying to take some of the vagueness out.
Because I do think that's what the building official is looking at now when these projects come forward, depending on what the particulars are of the project. All right, is this a good idea that we want to make sure that if they don't go forward with this, that the town then doesn't have to fight out of its pocket to, clean up the life safety issues or an impact on neighboring properties.
So you're saying it's pretty much implied, the life safety aspect of it, because that's
No,
part
I
of
think
what
it's
he's
always
doing.
good to add more language to it, because if there's a concern that it's vague or broad, we don't want to get challenged that your, ordinance is unconstitutional because it's overly broad and nobody knows what adverse impacts are. So if you add, life safety issue to it or just a safety issue to it, then that might, get past that broad vagueness.
I'm willing to do it. At life safety, I wouldn't just do safety. Safety is sorry.
I'm sorry.
You would just use the word safety rather than life safety?
No, life safety
Life
is probably
safety. You would use the words life safety.
because if you don't terminate a outlet or electrical and it creates a fire, then That's a major head. I think, that we could add life safety. I don't know what the feeling.
So if we had that, could we have a motion?
Yeah, I mean, that's my only comment.
That's a good point.
You want to bring it up for a motion?
So I'll make a motion that after
You wanna
adverse,
open it up
pardon?
first, public comment?
I'm sorry.
Any public comment? Seeing none?
All right. That after adverse impacts, we just put a comment and just say life safety
You could say and life.
and life
That way
safety,
they
comment
can-
and life safety,
Just and life safety.
or just and life safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
This is going to be my last hurrah. Okay, moving on to item 5, ordinance review, development plan review.
So this item also came from that joint workshop. At the time, you guys asked us to add the word defer in there because it was not clear about your powers to defer. One of the attorneys worked on that and added the language for the word defer. However, since based on the discussion that we had with town attorney at the last development plan review, we are recommending that you also add language inside that code for development plan review in regards to landscaping to make it clear that you all can place conditions in regards to landscaping to meet a requirement. And I can have the attorney, of course, talk more about it since she brought it up at the last meeting.
And we saw today during the development plan review that the landscaping portion was a very big deal. So I think this is, you need to add something in here.
So that language hasn't been added yet.
It has not, because the recommendation from when you guys asked us to do it was just to add the word defer. Since we're taking this ordinance, we're just asking to, if you choose to, which you guys tend to look at landscaping, we are recommending that you also add that sentence or something similar to ensure that you can look at landscaping, there's no question.
Christie, where would you recommend we insert that if we
It
do?
doesn't really matter anywhere in it where you're talking about the criteria that this board considers, because right now there's nothing mentioned about the landscape plan in your criteria. So when the discussion we had last time about adding more trees above and beyond what the landscape code requires, there's not actually a provision in your development review that allows for that. So we would just simply add that in so it's clear that landscape plans are within your purview. And even though something may technically meet code, you could ask, the applicant to agree to enhance that, even though I believe we're working on the landscape code to keep that up too. But for the time being, this way we'll have that
Yeah, I think.
technical legal leverage.
I think we should add it on 6356 1B5.
It would be part of the B, under 1B.
Yeah. No, landscaping is as important as the building.
Well, it could affect the drainage systems and the septic.
Good. All right. Any more discussion? I'm not contagious, by the way. This is all internal. Don't want to have this. Okay. Do we have anybody, a motion to,
You want to open it up to public?
anybody in the public? They're all, we got them totally loud here. Sit Carolyn, maybe. She'll keep us alive. Okay, anybody wish to make a motion?
And are you okay with the language that's proposed inside the memo and adding that same language to 5?
1B5.
Yeah.
I just had one question under building design, and I'll make it quick. Building C, building design, item 6, it says use of any and or all of the above preferred design elements in conjunction with the renovation or addition to existing homes is encouraged, along with the removal of any existing elements that are not preferred. And I just had the question, what if the builder or homeowner disagrees with that assessment? That's why we're here.
And that's not a change, that's your existing ordinance. That's not a change that we're proposing. That's already there.
So do we have a motion?
Go ahead.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I've been uncomfortable with the phrase, with the phrase, relationship of building and site to adjoining areas. And then we talk about the buildings. I think B1 under that section, it should be building and site should be designed to enhance the surrounding.
That's more complete.
Pardon?
That's more complete, that's fine.
Okay, so you want also to add the
If
word
anybody else.
and site to
1B1
B1.
And 3 perhaps as well,
Pardon?
and 3 as well.
Buildings
Yes.
and site.
Yes.
Good. Very good. Neil, you want to make the motion?
Now, so then I have the question, do we also want to continue then to retain number 5, to propose number 5?
I would say yes.
I think
because
it's-
very specific
I think it makes it more comprehensive. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept the ordinance change with the addition that 6356 1B1, the word site should be added after buildings, and B3, the same change.
With the addition of
recommendation. by
And
the
then the incorporation of a number 5 as per the ordinance memo.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
6 should be useful.
Working immune to this one.
Yeah.
Dates.
Yeah, date change. We have a new holiday in town, which is Juneteenth, which is going to fall on June 20th, which is your regular monthly P&Z meeting. So we're proposing that you all meet on Tuesday, June 21st, which will fall within the same week. You had an opportunity to check your schedules.
It's fine with me.
Should work.
So we're just talking about the first paragraph right now.
Mhm.
Okay.
Agreed.
So do we need a motion for?
Can we
Just a
also,
consensus.
can we also talk at the time here about the second paragraph?
Mhm.
Well, can
So
I have
we're
a
done with-
consensus for the June date?
Oh,
Everybody good with June?
Okay. All right, so we have consensus on that. And then our second one, December date is close to the holidays. If you'd like to move that date, we can discuss that now.
so it's December 19th, moving it earlier, or is that what it exists at now?
And that's what it exists as now, is the December 19th.
I'm
That's the third Monday.
good with the 19th. I think during this time, I'd hate for an applicant not to get something reviewed because we moved it to the 12th. I don't think it's not like it's December 23rd or 24th. Yeah, I'm fine with the 19th personally.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Same here.
Okay.
I would rather have it be earlier, but accommodation we made.
Why we have alternates.
Yeah. Why just let's get it.
Yeah, let's try and make it.
Last one.
Okay, moving on. I don't even have it.
I've got an extra.
Yeah, I put a copy on your desk.
The things that were on the table when you came. Here's here.
Okay, moving on to item 7, which is rezoning requirements. Is that?
Yes. So what this is we have a current code regarding rezoning, and it requires that the applicant submit a survey. What we would like to do is if it's a currently vacant lot and they are proposing to rezone to preservation conservation, then instead of requiring a survey, we would require other certain things as mentioned in your memo.
This makes all the sense in the world to me, not having
Extra requirements for
somebody who's willing to restrict their property have to spend a lot of money on a survey.
And
And if
that's the
that
issue.
if you happen to be partially submerged land, that could be an expensive survey.
Right.
Well said. Okay.
I make the motion to approve the proposal.
We want to open up the public comment.
We love them, I tell you. That's where we want them. Okay.
Public comment?
Anybody, public, have any comment? Okay. Do we
I made a motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make the motion.
Adjourn. Get well soon. Thank you for helping it out.
Thanks.
You went left that fast. Impressive. Hope you feel better, Mark.
All righty.